don't get a fire. What's going on here?
I'm firing everyone today.
Go ahead.
Well, welcome back to the Wisco Fanatics. We have Mike Spofford from Packers.com, special guest. Thank you very much. Mike, we were just talking about that game last night. What are your initial thoughts?
Well, I mean, San Francisco's defense obviously showed up again. I mean, until, they allowed that late touchdown. I mean, they gave up 6 points to a Seattle offense that for the most part have been having a pretty good season. So 49ers are a tough customer right now. And to go from 3-4 after 7 games to the first team in the league to clinch a division title, that says something. The 49ers are hot regardless of what's going on at quarterback. That's a hot team, and they're going to be really difficult to beat.
Yeah, it's not looking pretty. We actually have a question regarding the 49ers in the future here, a couple minutes. But I wanted to ask you a question real quick. Do you watch basketball? Are you a Bucks fan?
I watch the Bucks a little bit. I actually probably watch Badger basketball more than I watch Bucks basketball, but I do catch the Bucks once in a while. Yeah.
Did you watch either game last night?
Yeah, I watched the Badger game against Lehigh, and then I checked the score of what was going on in Memphis, and I'm like, I guess I don't need to turn that one on.
It's bedtime, I guess, huh?
Yeah. I went right to the NFL game after Badger basketball was over.
Yeah, I watched a little bit of the Bucks game, and it was getting chippy at first, and they were making shots, and we weren't. And I was kind of like, yeah, guess I'm watching football too tonight. But that was a great game last night. Simon, Bryant, you guys watched that game? What'd you guys think?
Yeah, I watched it. I thought it was a really the way we were just talking about. Kyle Shanahan just schemes up that offense. It's so well put together, and I would agree that the 49ers are probably the team to beat because their defense is just so nasty. Obviously we were all rooting for 49ers last night. That's hard to say, but that just Packers needed another Seahawks loss. So, hey, go Niners last night, I guess.
Good. They play the Chiefs next, so that'll probably be the next Seahawks loss that we need and we get. So hopefully the chips start falling. We're going to be Commanders fans on Monday night, though, or Sunday night, I mean, and we'll be Packers fans on Monday night.
Yes, we will. All right, so first question, and this involves getting to the playoffs, is what is the reason that fans should want to make the playoffs over getting a higher draft pick?
Hey, you want to make the playoffs because you just never know what's going to happen. I mean, whether you're talking, the Steelers back in 2005 when Bill Cowher won his only Super Bowl championship, or the Packers in 2010. I mean, the New York Giants in 2011, I mean, if you get in, you just never know because it comes down to who gets hot, who gets the breaks, who gets the calls, which way the ball bounces. If you have a chance to get in the playoffs, you want to be able to take that chance and roll the dice. And I mean, you play this, the players play this game, the coaches coach this game to give themselves a shot at a championship. And whether you're the 1 seed or the 7 seed, now that they let 7 teams in from each conference, whether you're the 1 seed or the 7 seed, you want that shot to win a championship. So you don't give up on that until mathematically it says that you can't do it.
For sure.
Thank you so much for that answer, because we've been trying to beat that horse. So this question came about because I saw a stat that said if the 49ers and Vikings both went out, that the Vikings would get the 2 seed. If the Packers got the last seed, we would be going to San Francisco to play the 49ers in the first round of the playoffs. So if the Packers do make the playoffs, how confident do you feel with a matchup against the 49ers or the Vikings?
Well, I mean, right now I would much rather play the Vikings than the 49ers. I mean, the Vikings, their defense is a mess right now. They've given up over 400 yards in 5 consecutive games, which has never happened in the history of the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, that defense is on a historically bad stretch right now for them. Now, they've got a month to figure it out. The Vikings are going to make the playoffs. They're going to be in, give themselves a chance. They just need one more win to clinch the NFC North, and they're going to get a minimum of 1 home game in the playoffs. So they're going to get there and they have time to figure some things out with their defense. But that's the team I would like to see try to defend Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs and Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon the way every team they've been playing lately has been marching up and down the field against them. That's the matchup. If the Packers can make a run and get into the playoffs, that's the matchup you want. You want the Vikings, because not only that, but if the Packers get there, you will have just beaten the Vikings on January 1st at Lambeau Field, right? So, so that's the matchup you want. Right now, I say stay away from San Francisco as long as you can, because those guys look really, really tough to me.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Simon.
Yeah, speaking of Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs, ever since the emergence of Christian Watson, and we've seen Doubs come out, unfortunately, the last few games he's played, or he hasn't played because of injury, how excited are you to see him on the field this late in the season together? And what do you think they can do?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really excited. I think everybody's excited. This is, nobody expected Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs to, take the NFL by storm in week 1, week 2 as rookies, right? But the idea was that, okay, you have the veterans, Allen Lazard, Randall Cobb, Sammy Watkins to get things started during the season. But then as these young rookies figure it out, get more acclimated into the offense, get on the same page with the quarterback, all that these two rookies were going to be a really, really big part of this offense. And, we haven't seen them on the field together. They both missed, lots of games due to injuries. Things just haven't worked out in that regard the way you'd like them to. I was hoping the Packers maybe would be at this point with those two rookie receivers really ready to go, acclimated, with a chance to show what they can do on the field together, like say around week 6 or 7 or 8, something like that. Here we are now in week 14. It's finally going to happen. Better late than never, obviously, but yeah, a lot of excitement over it, because these two guys are the future of the Packers receiving core for the next few years here. You don't spend, essentially 2 second-round picks to move up to get Watson, and then spend a 4th-round pick just a couple rounds later to get another receiver if you're not planning on these guys being a really big part of things for a handful of years here. So this is a glimpse into the future of the receiving core, and I think there's a lot of excitement around it.
Do you think Samori Toure can make his way up in a little bit too? I've seen him make a couple flashy plays, and I know he's a 7th-round pick, but it looked like he's kind of made a little bit of a stride.
Yeah, I mean, Toure has definitely flashed. I mean, we saw it some in training camp. We've seen it some during, a couple of different regular season games. I think he's one of those guys that as a 7th-round pick, there's that much further to go. But that's what the offseason between year 1 and year 2, between year 2 and year 3. Toure is a guy he's got the tools, and I think the longer he sticks around and really learns this offense, learns from the guys in front of him, I think there's definitely potential there, no doubt about it. I mean, his speed, I mean, everybody talks about Christian Watson's speed, and that's absolutely undeniable. Samori Toure is a lot faster than people give him credit for. He's got a quickness, the sort of that short burst type of quickness that showed up on the field during training camp when he was kind of feeling his way and learning this offense. So I'm curious to see what he ends up doing, what he ends up becoming down the road, because there are definitely some tools there for a guy who was taken in the 7th round.
Cool.
Yeah. Real quick on that, Samori's speed. The first time I seen him was I was at the game in Washington, and I remember his speed popping off towards the end of the game, and I was like, we need to see him on the field more. But going on to Christian Watson a little bit more, obviously he's been on absolute fire the last 4 or 5 weeks. Kind of catapulted himself into the offensive rookie of the year conversation. What do you think he would need to do? Because he's likely not going to have the yards that someone like Chris Olave does, but he's got the touchdown numbers. What do you think he needs to do over the final 4 weeks to really have a shot at that award?
I mean, he's got it's 9 total touchdowns right now, right? He had the one early in the season. He's had 8 in the last 4 games. So he's got 9 total touchdowns. I mean, as a rookie, if you get up into that, 12 or 13 touchdown range by the time it's all said and done, I'm not sure how much the receptions and the yardage matter. You get in the end zone that many times your first year in the NFL, especially with the number of games that he missed. I think he definitely needs to be in that conversation. I guess I'll put it at, a dozen touchdowns. If he gets to a dozen touchdowns, I think he gets serious consideration regardless of where his receptions and yardage, would compare to, say Olave or, if you're looking at Kenneth Walker from Seattle, the running back, like his production, I think all those guys are really, really good candidates for the award, but everybody's got, a few games left. So, statistically the numbers, things can change here over the last few weeks. And if Watson keeps finding the end zone, his candidacy will be serious for that award.
We call that the Christian corner. He just needs to find that like 3 or 4 more times. That left side of that end zone.
They're in the left corner of the end zone.
Yeah. So.
All right. So I'm gonna pop up a fan question here. It says there's no sense to go to the playoffs. We can't stop the running game of the Eagles or the number 1 defense. Come on, in and out. The best for us is to lose the rest of the games and be in the first 10 picks of the next draft. Just being realistic.
Sorry, that's not my mentality. It's never going to be my mentality. I mean, the Packers got Rashawn Gary with the 12th overall pick. They got Jair Alexander with the 18th overall pick. Yeah, everybody would love to have a top 10 pick. It increases your odds. But there are plenty of busts in the top 10. There are plenty of really good players that are taken in the bottom half of the first round. To play or to lose for the draft pick, not worth it. The draft is as big a crapshoot as the playoffs. So if you're going to play, if you're going to go into this crapshoot kind of stuff, give me the playoffs. Give me the dice. Let me roll them in the playoffs, and then we'll do the same in the draft anyway. That's the way I look at it.
Thank you so much. I've been picking on Bears fans for months, dude. I've been picking on Bears fans for months. I'm like, oh, you guys want to lose so you guys can draft another quarterback that you're going to draft in 4 more years? It's like, come on, man. It's ridiculous to want to lose. I don't understand that mentality at all.
I don't know. You can't build a loser mentality and expect success around a football team. You can't.
Exactly.
I mean, as a Packer fan, I mean, I realized 2011 was 11 years ago now, which just makes me feel old, but the New York Giants were 9-7. The Green Bay Packers were 15-1. Who won the Super Bowl that year? The New York Giants did. You just don't know. You have to get in. You have to give yourself a chance, and you don't give that chance away. If you have a shot, you go for it. That's the bottom line.
Yeah. I would take the lottery ticket of a Super Bowl over the lottery ticket of a 8th pick versus the 18th pick.
100%. 100% every
And the
time.
idea that we can't beat Philly, I mean, we gave them a run for their money in Philly a little bit. I mean, we were in that game. We weren't completely out of it. So.
No, I mean, the Packers were down 2 touchdowns early. They came back and actually took the lead 14-13. The defense had an absolutely terrible night that night, but the Packers proved that Philly's defense is not impenetrable by any means. The backup quarterback, Jordan Love, went in and put 10 points on the board against that defense. So yeah, I mean, I say, hey, just get in and take your shot. The Packer, it's not an easy road. You got to win 4 in a row here. You got to get some help. I think the game, I'm not looking past the Rams, but honestly, like, if the Packers don't beat the Rams on Monday night, there's no point in even talking about any of this anymore, right? The game in Miami on Christmas, to be on the road against a team like that with those weapons, the way the Packers defense has struggled, the Miami game for me, assuming the Packers can beat the Rams on Monday night, that's the one that's going to tell you whether making the playoffs is realistic or not. If the Packers can go to Miami and beat the Dolphins and get to 7-8, and then you have 2 home games against division rivals who are indoor teams coming out to Lambeau Field to play in the cold, and those are the 2 games that you need to win to get into the playoffs, it becomes very realistic. It's not realistic right now, but I think it becomes realistic if the Packers win their next 2 and come back from Miami at 7-8.
I think I've seen that they're like 11% chance, but
13.
This ties in actually really well. This actually ties in really well to a fan question who said he thinks Jordan Love starts right now and sit Aaron Rodgers for the rest of the year. So what do you think as far as the quarterback position goes for the rest of this season? And then if you had to pick one going into next season, into 2023, of Rodgers and Love are both back, Rodgers is back and Love is gone, Love is back and Rodgers is gone, or they're both gone, which box would you put your name in?
All right. Well, as far as this year is concerned, obviously the Packers are taking the approach that if they're alive for the playoffs, that Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback as long as he's healthy enough to play, and you're going for it. You're going to take your shot. Now, if the Packers get mathematically eliminated, I think there are a lot of reasons to think about playing Jordan Love, not the least of which is what just happened to Kyler Murray. You know, if Aaron Rodgers is going to be the quarterback in 2023, why would you put him out there and risk what, happened to Kyler Murray, where then you could have $50 million on your cap next year and he's rehabbing an ACL the entire time. So I don't know what the Packers will decide. Me personally, if the Packers are out of it mathematically and cannot get into the playoffs, then I'm resting my $50 million quarterback and saying, sorry, it's not worth it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
As far as 2023 goes, my best guess, and again, I don't know anything. I have no inside information here. My best guess is that 2023 is going to be status quo at the quarterback position. I think if Aaron Rodgers wants to continue playing, he will be the Packers quarterback in 2023. And I think Jordan Love, even though he won't like it and he won't be happy about it, and I wouldn't blame him for not being happy about it, but I think Jordan Love is the backup again in 2023. I know there are rumors out there. There are a couple stories that have been written based on interviews with Jordan Love that I think have been misinterpreted in terms of, the way the comments and the stories have been perceived, that Jordan Love is going to demand a trade if Aaron Rodgers comes back in 2023. That's not what he said. He said it would be a situation he would have to discuss with his representatives, which is exactly what he should do and what you would think he would say, given the current circumstances. As far as if Jordan Love were actually to demand a trade, the business side of this game can stink for certain guys sometimes. And I don't know where Jordan Love would even have any leverage to try to, demand a trade. Like what reason would the Packers have for granting that? In a lot of ways that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. So I think you come back in 2023 potentially with the status quo at quarterback again. If Aaron Rodgers wants to continue playing and wants to continue to be the Packers quarterback, I think it stays as the status quo. And my best guess is they pick up Jordan Love's fifth-year option with the idea that he becomes the quarterback in 2024, and they find out if he is the quarterback of the future. As far as the way things look right now, that would be my best guess as to how this plays out.
Completely agree.
I think having Jordan Love having 20 whatever million guaranteed that fifth year would probably ease the pain a little bit of sitting, having to sit another year. I don't know why fans would want, what do they expect? I seen that article as well. Do they want him to say, yeah, I'm excited to sit again? No, you want the guy to want to play.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, absolutely. You wouldn't want him to be satisfied. You wouldn't want him to necessarily be happy about it. But yeah, I mean that fifth year option for 2024 is going to be roughly a $20 million payday. And I think the Packers would give him a chance to prove himself in 2024. So it's been a good situation thus far for Jordan Love to be behind Aaron Rodgers. He's learned a lot. He's improved. We obviously saw in the fourth quarter in Philadelphia, he looked like a very different quarterback than the one we saw last season in Kansas City and last season in the second half in Detroit in week 18. The progress is there. The improvement is there. Of course, he wants to play. I think he's proven he's probably ready to take the reins, just as Aaron Rodgers was ready after 3 years behind Brett Favre to take the reins in 2008. It may not work out that way, that year 4 becomes year 1 for Jordan Love as the starter, and he may have to wait one more year. Not ideal for him. But at the same time, I think he's still going to get his chance with the Packers eventually.
Yeah, I agree on 2024. Corey said he's a big Vikings fan and his favorite quarterback is Patrick Mahomes. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to watch a Packers show.
Yeah, I appreciate that too.
All right.
always on their mind.
Yeah. Bryant, go ahead.
So what do you? So I know we saw Baker Mayfield in Lambeau Field last Christmas, right?
Yeah.
He gave us a great Christmas gift. 4 interceptions.
Yeah, four
thoughts?
interceptions.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on the Rams with Baker Mayfield coming in? Do you think he's going to give them a boost, or how do you think it makes his team more dangerous?
Well, he definitely gives the Rams a better chance to win than either of the backups that they've had playing behind Stafford to this point. I mean, that's certainly why they picked him up, and it adds a lot more intrigue to this matchup with Matthew Stafford not being available, with Mayfield stepping in. I've been kind of saying this all week in Insider Inbox and in the videos, unscripted and other videos that we've done at work. I mean, I feel like Baker Mayfield is a flip a coin quarterback. He can go out and throw 4 touchdowns and have a 125 passer rating, or he can go out and throw 4 interceptions and have a 55 passer rating. You don't know what you're going to get with Baker Mayfield. And quite frankly, until now, he was in an extremely difficult situation in that Thursday night game against the Raiders, having just been claimed off waivers on Tuesday, and then he's got to play on Thursday night. He really didn't do a whole heck of a lot in that game until the last 5 or 6 minutes, when then suddenly he, drives him down the field back-to-back, times for touchdowns to be able to pull that game out. I think playing at home, the Packers being at home, prime time, the cold winter weather. The real challenge for the Packers in this game, I think, more so than facing Baker Mayfield, is that Rams defense, because the Rams have stopped the run really, really well this year. They're ranked in the top 5 in the league in rushing yards allowed and yards per carry allowed on the ground. It's going to be a real challenge for the Packers to run the ball against this team and stay balanced offensively. And if they can do that, I think the Packers win this game, regardless of what Baker Mayfield does. But the challenge here, really, I know Baker Mayfield's the headline. The challenge is the Packers offense against the Rams defense.
First of all, I'm going to tell you to stop looking at my notes, because we're going to go over the notes in a little bit. And I bring up the Rams run defense because it's been phenomenal. Yep. Even without Aaron Donald, it's been
that I think that's been the surprising thing, is that whether Aaron Donald has been in the lineup or not, from a run defense standpoint, the Rams have been really, really good. They certainly miss Donald, I think, more in the pass rush than they do with the run defense. But even with that, I mean, Derek Carr was having a heck of a time, against that pass rush without Aaron Donald in that Thursday night game. They had some guys collapse in the pocket. They made things difficult for him.
At least one of our offensive linemen won't get choked this year. That'll be good.
You don't know that.
It's true. You don't know that.
Got to keep the tradition alive.
It's a bad tradition to keep alive.
Go ahead.
Well, it's better. It's probably better than getting stomped on, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Evan Smith that'll be the moment that lives in infamy from his career. Evan's a really good guy. I like him a lot.
I like him as a player.
I joke about that because I've actually bumped into Evan a couple of times. He still lives around here. I bumped into him a couple of times since he left Green Bay, since he left the Packers. Just a really good dude, and I mean, what happened to him on that? Was it a Thanksgiving game? I think it was Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it was Thanksgiving. Yeah.
I mean, absolutely unbelievable. Anyway, sorry, I'm going back into
No, you're fine.
I loved it. That's cool that he still lives around there, though.
Yeah, he's around. I bumped into him at Target a few years ago, of all places. So
that's really cool.
All
right, so kind of the way we do things on the show is we like to give 2 score predictions. We like to give one from our head, where we kind of take all of the analysis and kind of put it together and come up with a realistic score prediction. And when we do one from our heart, where if Green Bay does everything right, this will be the score. So we call it one from the head, one from the heart. What do you got?
Which one do you want first?
Head first.
We always go
first.
head
The
first.
head
Okay,
first,
the head is first. Okay. My head says because nothing has come easy to the Packers this year at all. But I think they go into this game as the better team and with a lot more going for them. My head says that they will, at home in prime time, in the cold against a warm weather team, they will find a way. They will find a way to pull this game out, and it will be something like 27-23. Now, my heart says if the Packers are going to get on a run here and really start to put it together and build whatever fashion momentum exists on a week-to-week basis in this league and find that somehow, Baker Mayfield's going to throw him some interceptions. The Packers, with all their receivers healthy, the running backs healthy, the offense is going to find and do what it needs to do. And this game is going to be something more like 34-17.
Ooh, I like it.
So
I love
that's
that.
I guess that would be the heart prediction because I think that's something that would maybe open people's eyes a little bit. Just say, hey, maybe running this thing out and getting the playoffs is a little more possible than we thought when you've got to come back from 9 points down in Chicago against a Bears team and pull it out right at the very end.
Yeah.
So.
All right. If I can get one more question in.
Yeah.
And this is a battle that we have fought literally the entire season. What would you say to people who call David Bakhtiari injury prone?
Oh man.
I was just gonna ask him about that too.
Look, I mean, okay, so New Year's Eve of 2020 is when he blows out the ACL in practice, right? Mm-hmm. I have no idea what necessarily went wrong or everything that went along with it. But when you have to have 2 follow-up surgeries after an ACL, after the original ACL reconstruction, you end up having to have 2 follow-up surgeries because things don't heal, rehab, whatever, quite right. It sort of becomes all bets are off at that point, right? I mean, how do you really know? How do you really know where a guy is at? I mean, this is a guy who's in his 10th year in the league. He was drafted in 2013. These aren't 23, 24-year-old knees anymore. I don't like that. I don't like that label to begin with, but I certainly don't like it if you're applying it to somebody who's had an ACL reconstruction and follow-up surgeries after that. To me, the label of injury prone is more of like the soft tissue stuff, the stuff that would maybe count as the preventable injuries, like pulling a hamstring or pulling a calf muscle, or things like that. I mean, when guys get tackled and their ankle gets destroyed, and they have to sit out for 4 or 5 weeks. I mean,
Romeo does.
That's not being injury prone. There's no, that is the haphazardness and the nastiness of this game. The guys who are missing time all the time because of hamstring injuries and calf pulls and other, those soft tissue injuries. There's definitely something to be said there for how well a guy is taking care of his body and doing the things, to really put his body in the best position to handle the rigors of the game. So that's where I draw a big distinction between those kinds of injuries and the kinds of injuries that literally can happen to anybody just because of the nature of the game. And as far as Dave goes, I mean, he ended up getting appendicitis in the middle of the season. I had to have an emergency appendectomy. I actually had one of those earlier this season, week 4, New England Patriots, Wednesday night. I was in the ER And 5 hours later, I'm waking up at 2 a.m. in the recovery room and my appendix was out. Like it wasn't fun. It wasn't planned. It was kind of scary because they were nervous about that thing rupturing. And that's what they got nervous about with Dave as well, which is why they needed to operate right away. So, that kind of stuff can happen to absolutely anybody, whether you're, a hack like me sitting at a computer or a 5-time All-Pro left tackle. So that's I guess that's my long answer on the injury prone question.
So you mean the fans that are saying it's because he indulges in some adult beverages? That's not accurate.
I don't think.
I knew one of us was going to bring it up. I knew one of us.
I was trying not to.
I laugh at those
I was
people
going to bring
so
it up,
much.
but Brian didn't.
I laugh at those people so much.
No, the only thing that was good, for me about having the emergency appendectomy when I had it is because then the following week was the trip to London, and my surgeon said, "Hey, you can't lift anything over 20 pounds for a month." So the whole trip to London, like Wes had to carry like my luggage and my computer bag and everything because like I wasn't allowed to lift anything that was that heavy.
That's funny.
So Wes was my luggage boy for the whole trip to London.
That gives us
We didn't have Evan Siegel take any pictures of that though. Wes made sure that was not going to be, that those photos were not going to end up in the archives. But yeah, so I was on a plane to London a week after the appendectomy and had to have somebody else take care of my luggage. So
that might give us a little insight on the fact that David probably won't play. And if he does play in like not this week, but next week, the fact that you were told not even to lift anything for 20 and he, or a month over 20 pounds, but he would be stepping on a football field, maybe 3 weeks, maybe people should sit down and let him, recover a little bit.
Yeah. And the reason, and so people understand too, medically, the reason for that restriction, what the surgeon told me after he took my appendix out is it's because of the incisions they have to make to do the surgery. They don't want you to lift anything heavy because of the risk of herniation at the incision points. The incisions need to heal before you can, strain yourself with those kind of, lifting and pulling, weights and things like that. So, now, what the restriction is going to be on a 300-pound NFL football player, I don't know. I don't know if it's any different for me or for somebody like him, or if there are ways to quote unquote rehab that and maybe shorten the time frame. I don't know any of those answers. But when I heard that Dave was having an emergency appendectomy, to me, I was like, well, that's going to be multiple weeks at a minimum before he's going to be able to go out there and block a 285-pound edge rusher, to protect Aaron Rodgers.
I won't lie. I've enjoyed watching Zach Tom though. He's a stud. Impressive
young football player who, honestly, from a pure physical standpoint, like body type, body size, he doesn't even look like he's fully grown into his body yet. I think I think he's got a chance to grow both physically and, in his game in general. People forget in a lot of ways. If you want to go back and look at pictures in 2013 of David Bakhtiari as a rookie 4th round draft pick playing tackle in the NFL. His body looked a lot different just a few years later than it did as a rookie, and Zach Tom could put himself on that same kind of path from a physical standpoint.
Don't get me too excited now, buddy. So I just thought of this random question because I just wanted to know. You can give me a top 3, a top 5, doesn't matter. I want to know your favorite players to interview over your career. Oh,
wow. Favorite players to interview.
This is more of a question about you. So I was interested in this.
Yeah. I'll start by saying there have been a lot of really, really good ones and a lot of guys. This is my 17th season in this job with Packers.com. So, I've interviewed, I've gotten to know a lot of guys over the years. Obviously, it's been a little harder in recent years because in, both 2020 and 2021 seasons, reporters, we weren't allowed in the locker rooms at all. Like everything was, virtual over Zoom or in a press conference setting, as opposed to when you kind of get to talk to a guy one-on-one. Boy, it's really, I mean, it's really hard to pick the guys who come to mind. The guys who come to mind first for me are Tramon Williams, Aaron Jones,
love that.
Charles Woodson.
Oh boy.
Trying to think who else really jumps out. I mean, I'll say this too. I've had the pleasure in being the editor of the Packers yearbook for several years now. I've gotten the opportunity a couple of times for two different cover stories that I did for the yearbook. One that was several years ago where I sat down with both Aaron Rodgers and Jordy Nelson, just the three of us, and got to sit and talk football with those guys for like a half an hour. And I did the same thing a few years later with both Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams. That's awesome. Asking a lot of the same types of questions that I had asked a few years ago, a few years prior to that in talking to Rodgers and Nelson. Those are the kinds of interviews that that you really remember as a reporter and a writer, because those opportunities are special. And quite frankly, in both of those settings, I had a whole list of questions, but it didn't take much. I just had to get those guys talking about memories and their recall of plays and games and this route and that route and what happened here. And it was like they just took the conversation where they wanted to go. And those kinds of interviews are really memorable and really special.
Yeah. Gotta say, I'm jealous. I won't lie. I'm very jealous.
All right. Well, we appreciate you very, very much for taking the time to join us. We'd love to have you back anytime during the rest of the season and during the off season. And we get super heavy into draft prep, so we'd love to have you with that too. We pretty appreciate you for joining us. It's definitely some great conversation. We appreciated your answers as well.
Yeah, no, I've enjoyed the conversation, guys, and absolutely, I'm sorry it's taken me so long to get on this year. I know that this was kind of a little while in the making, but by all means, if Packers are making a run at it here, by all means, ask me back. I'd be happy to come back on, or during the off season, you want to talk about some off season topics. By all means, I'd be happy to join you again.
That would be awesome. So, real quick, where can people find you to get more from you if they like your answers like we do?
Honestly, everything I do is on Packers.com, whether it's a written story, whether it's a video, whether it's the fan mail column that we call Insider Inbox. All of it's there on Packers.com. I'm also on Twitter at Mike Spofford, all lowercase, but I am probably the least active Packers beat reporter on social media. It is not my thing. I don't try to fake it. I don't pretend. I have the account for work, and I like to promote the work that we do on the website, both the work that I do and what Wes does and what Larry does, and all that. We have a really great video department, all that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, the website Packers.com, all my work is there. I love what I do. I love interacting with the fans. I love getting to columnize, editorialize a little bit, and it's a blast, and I hope people enjoy the work.
Awesome. So what I'm hearing from you is that we caught the rare fish, is what it sounds like.
Yeah.
What's that?
Sounds based on being the least active on the social media and all of that. It sounds like we caught the rarest fish in the pond.
Yeah.
Perhaps. Yeah, perhaps. Well, I pay attention to what goes on Twitter because it's definitely part of my job and part of the media world these days. So I don't deny that. But in terms of me personally being active on it, monitoring things and being active on it are two very different things. And maybe in a handful of years when I retire, I'll let loose on Twitter and let it rip. I don't know. We'll see. So,
Thanks again.
Hey, thanks guys. Appreciate it.
Have a good night.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate
Have a
it.
good night.
All right.